One, on the freeze in federal funding, who advised the president on the legality of telling government agencies that they don't have to spend money that was already appropriated by Congress?
Well, as the OMB memo states, this is certainly within the confines of the law. So White House counsel's office believes that this is within the president's power to do it, and therefore he's doing it.
In a fiery press briefing that left no room for misinterpretation, Trump's press secretary brutally demolishes woke CNN after her stupid question about the administration's bold move to rein in government spending. As President Trump pushes forward with a sweeping freeze on federal funding programs, aimed at cutting bloated expenses and returning power to the people, the press secretary wasted no time in shutting down media spin and misinformation. This no-nonsense exchange highlights the administration's unwavering commitment to fiscal responsibility and exposing the biased narratives of legacy media outlets. Buckle up, this is a debate you can't miss.
One, on the freeze in federal funding, who advised the president on the legality of telling government agencies that they don't have to spend money that was already appropriated by Congress?
Well, as the OMB memo states, this is certainly within the confines of the law. So White House counsel's office believes that this is within the president's power to do it, and therefore he's doing it.
Okay, so they disagree with lawmakers who say that they don't have the power to freeze this funding.
Again, I would point you to the language in the memo that clearly states this is within the law.
And all that happened on Friday night. The administration fired several inspectors general without giving Congress the 30-day legally required notification that they were being fired. I think only 2 were left at DHS and the DOJ. And then yesterday we saw several prosecutors, I believe 12, fired from the Justice Department who worked on the investigations into the president. As you know, they are career prosecutors, therefore they are afforded civil service protections. How is the administration deciding which laws to follow and which ones to ignore?
When it comes to executive authority and legal justifications, the Trump administration isn't just playing by the rules, they're rewriting the playbook. They're defending moves like firing inspectors general and putting a freeze on federal funds by leaning heavily on the power vested in the presidency. It's classic Trump. Cut through the noise, drop the legal receipts, and keep it moving. They cite executive authority and pull legal precedents like it's ammo, basically telling Congress and the critics, this is our lane, stay out of it. The strategy here is all about consolidating control and keeping federal agencies in check, showing that the executive branch answers to no one but the voters. Love it or hate it, this approach is unapologetically aggressive, and it's sending a clear message. Trump's not here to play nice with the DC establishment.
So it is the belief of this White House and the White House counsel's office that the president was within his executive authority to do that. He is the executive of the executive branch, and therefore he has the power to fire anyone within the executive branch that he wishes to. There's also a case that went before the Supreme Court in 2020, Scala Law LLC versus the Customs, Bureau protection. I would advise you to look at that case, and that's the legality that this White House was resting on.
So you're confident that if they bring lawsuits against you, the prosecutors who were fired, that they will succeed?
We will win in court,
and
yes.
Did he personally direct this, given they worked on the classified documents investigation and the election interference investigation?
This was a memo that went out by the Presidential Personnel Office, and the president is the leader of this White House. So yes. Yes,
Caroline is here.
All right, let's really break this down. When it comes to executive authority and legal justifications, the Trump administration isn't pulling any punches. They're going all in, flexing the full weight of the executive branch. You've got moves like firing inspectors general left and right, freezing federal funds, and stripping certain bureaucrats of their power, and all of it backed by one clear argument. The president has the constitutional authority to do this, period. Now, critics are obviously losing their minds, calling it executive overreach, a power grab, authoritarian, you name it. But the administration's legal team? Yeah, they're locked in and confident, pointing to solid legal precedent to justify every single decision. One of their key references is the 2020 Supreme Court case, Scala Law LLC v. CFPB. If you haven't looked into it, here's the gist. The court ruled that the president has the authority to remove executive officials who serve under him, reinforcing the idea that these positions are accountable to the president, not insulated career roles free from oversight. That case is the backbone of Trump's legal defense. The White House counsel is saying, look, the Supreme Court has spoken. The president runs the executive branch, and that means he gets to hire, fire, and make decisions about personnel and funding. They're making it crystal clear. These aren't rogue moves, they're within the law and well within Trump's rights as president. But here's the bigger picture. They're not just doing this to shuffle staff or balance the budget. It's part of a broader strategy to dismantle what they see as a bloated, unaccountable federal bureaucracy. The Trump team views a lot of these inspectors, general and career officials as obstacles, holdovers from past administrations who are more loyal to the DC machine than to the American people. So, when Trump's press secretary gets up there and fields questions about firing aides without notice or pausing federal funds, she's not defensive. She's standing firm, basically saying, "We're cleaning house, we're taking back control, and it's all legal." Supporters of the administration are loving it. To them, this is Trump keeping his promise to drain the swamp, to get rid of the entrenched elites and give power back to the people who actually voted him in. They see the critics' outrageous proof that the establishment is rattled. On the flip side, you've got opponents raising red flags, saying this kind of unchecked authority undermines democratic norms and weakens checks and balances. But from the Trump administration's perspective, it's about restoring executive strength, cutting through the red tape, and making sure the president, elected by the people, actually has the ability to govern without being stonewalled by career bureaucrats. So at the end of the day, whether you see it as necessary leadership or dangerous overreach really depends on which side of the fence you're standing on. But one thing's for sure, Trump's team isn't backing down. They're citing the law, Supreme Court rulings, and executive precedent, and they're making it clear they're willing to fight it out in court if anyone tries to stand in the way. It's bold, unapologetic, and classic Trump.
Had reversed. So here's my question. Will there be an investigation into who gave the previous administration this terrible advice?
Well, that's a very good point. I haven't heard discussions about such an investigation, but it wouldn't be a bad idea considering that the Houthis certainly are terrorists. They have launched attacks on U.S. naval ships across this world, and so I think it was a very wise move by this administration to redesignate them as a terrorist group, because they are, and I think it was a foolish decision by the previous administration to do so. As for an investigation, I'm not sure about that, but it's not a bad idea. Josh.
Thank you for the question. I appreciate it. Can you give us an update on the president's plans for his tariff agenda? He spoke a lot about this yesterday, and there's a couple of dates coming up that he's spoken to. Number one, February 1st, he's alluded to both the potential for tariffs for Canada and Mexico, but also China to take effect on those days. What's he thinking about that?
Yeah.
Should those countries expect that?
Again, he was asked and answered this question this past weekend when he took a lot of questions from the press, and he said that the February 1st date for Canada and Mexico still holds.
What about the China 10% tariff that he also had mused about last Tuesday going into effect on the same day?
Yeah, the president has said that he is very much still considering that for February 1st.
Separately, yesterday he talked also about sectoral tariffs on, for instance, pharmaceuticals as well as semiconductor computer chips. He talked about steel, aluminum, and copper. What's the timeline on those? Is that a similar sort of coming days thing?
Yeah, so when the president talked about that in his speech yesterday, that actually wasn't a new announcement. That was within a presidential memorandum that he signed in one of the first days here in the White House on his America First trade agenda. So there's more details on those tariffs in there. As far as a date, I don't have a specific date to read out to you, but the president is committed to implementing tariffs effectively, just like he did in his first term.
Let's talk about Trump's foreign policy moves, because this is where things get really interesting. First off, Trump reinstated the Houthi designation as a terrorist organization, a total reversal of what the previous administration did. And honestly, it's not hard to see why. The Houthis have a track record of launching attacks on us allies, disrupting shipping routes, and cozying up to Iran. Trump's message here is crystal clear. He's not going soft on groups that pose a threat to American interests. But that's not all. He's also cutting and funding, slamming the brakes on writing blank checks to international organizations that, let's face it, don't always have America's back. This move hits two birds with one stone, tightening control over taxpayer dollars and signaling that global bodies better start respecting us sovereignty. And here's where it gets spicy. The administration is hinting at possibly investigating the last administration's decision-making, basically asking who thought it was a good idea to delist a terrorist group and pump money into global bureaucracies. It's a subtle but sharp jab that plays perfectly to Trump's base, painting the previous leadership as weak and misguided, while positioning this administration as the one correcting their mistakes. But Trump's foreign policy doesn't stop there. It ties right into his hardline stance on trade. Let's get into the tariff and trade agenda. Trump's bringing the heat back to his signature America First trade policy, and he's making no apologies about it. We're talking about tariffs on Canada, Mexico, China, and even specific sectors like steel, semiconductors, and pharmaceuticals. The goal? Strengthen American industry, protect its jobs, and stop letting foreign countries undercut American workers. And Trump's not just throwing out vague ideas, he's setting concrete deadlines, like February 1st, for when some of these tariffs will hit. That sends a strong signal. This isn't just talk, action is coming. It's part economic strategy, part negotiation tactic, keeping America's trade partners on their toes. Supporters see it as Trump refusing to let the US be taken advantage of, especially after years of what they view as weak trade deals. Critics, of course, argue it could stir up trade wars or raise prices, but Trump's betting big that the long-term gain, stronger American manufacturing, and less reliance on foreign supply chains, will outweigh any short-term friction. At the end of the day, whether it's foreign policy or trade, Trump's approach is all about reasserting American power, both economically and geopolitically. He's not playing by the old rulebook, and he's making it clear. America will call the shots, fund its own priorities, and stand firm against anyone who challenges its interests. Thanks so much for tuning in and sticking with me through the breakdown. If you enjoyed this analysis and want more no-nonsense, takes on politics, policy, and everything in between, make sure to smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. Your support helps keep this channel growing and the conversation going. Drop a comment below with your thoughts. I'd love to hear what you think. Thanks again, and I'll catch you in the next one.